I want you to take a second and just, picture the last time you felt really, truly stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was a deadline you knew you were going to miss, or a conversation you were absolutely dreading. That feeling,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Your heart starts pounding, your palms get all sweaty, your stomach just ties itself into a knot, and your brain is just screaming, make it stop.
Right. And that's the default setting for almost everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We think of stress as this toxic emotion, something we have to get rid of to be healthy or happy.
Exactly. We're conditioned to see it as the enemy, like it's a bug in the system.
We spend so much money on apps and vacations just trying to make that feeling go away.
But what if? What if we have it all wrong? What if that racing heart, that agitation, what if it isn't a malfunction at all? What if it's a superpower we just haven't learned how to drive yet?
I love that.
Today, we're going to tear down what you think you know about stress. We're doing a deep dive into the Huberman Lab Essentials from Dr. Andrew Huberman, the Stanford neurobiologist.
And his take is, it's just so different from the usual just calm down, think happy thoughts advice.
It's a total paradigm shift. Huberman's central idea, and this is the anchor for our whole conversation, is that stress isn't actually an emotion.
We feel it as an emotion for sure,
Yeah.
but biologically it is a generic mobilization system.
Generic mobilization system. I love that phrase. It sounds like something out of a military operations manual.
It does, but it's purely biological. And the mission for this deep dive is to move you from feeling, pulled around by the currents of life to actually understanding the logic of your own nervous system.
Okay, so what's the plan?
We are going to look at the mechanics of why you feel agitated, how short-term stress can actually boost your immune system, which is just wild, and we're going to teach you the single fastest biological mechanism to calm down in real time.
And when you say fast, you mean fast. We're not talking about a 20-minute meditation here.
No, we're talking seconds, biological switches you can flip. But first, we've got to pop the hood. You said stress isn't an emotion, so if I'm freaking out before a presentation, what is physically happening inside me?
Yeah, what's the machinery?
Okay, so anatomy. You have this collection of neurons that runs from about your neck down to your navel. It's called the sympathetic chain ganglia.
The sympathetic chain ganglia. Sounds like a very organized biker gang that lives in my torso.
In a way they are. They're very coordinated. When a stressor hits, and it could be a tiger, a mean email, just being cold, it doesn't matter, this whole chain of neurons activates like falling dominoes.
So the chain reaction's not just one part of me getting stressed, it's the whole system lighting up.
Precisely, all at once. These neurons release a chemical, acetylcholine, that triggers another set of neurons to dump epinephrine, which we all know as adrenaline, into your system.
And this is the cascade.
This is the cascade, and here's the fascinating part. The system is generic. It has no idea if you're late for a meeting or if you're being hunted by a predator. The signal is just go.
And that's the feeling, the agitation.
Yes, that agitation is the point. The adrenaline hits these things called beta receptors on your heart and on your leg muscles. It makes your blood vessels dilate, get bigger to rush blood to your legs.
So you're ready to move.
You're ready to move. And at the exact same time, it constricts blood vessels in your gut because, digestion is a luxury when you're in danger.
That explains the pit in my stomach feeling.
Yeah.
My body is literally shutting down the cafeteria to power the engine room.
That's the perfect way to put it. So that vibration you feel in your body, it's just resources being provided for movement. The problem is today we get mobilized while we're sitting in a chair staring at a screen. All that fuel and nowhere to drive.
Okay, that makes so much sense. I'm revved up, nowhere to go. So Huberman talks about a tool to hit the brakes on this. He calls it the physiological sigh. Now, when I'm stressed and someone says, take a deep breath, I kind of want to punch them.
Usually terrible advice.
But this is different. What makes this specific pattern so special?
This is the crown jewel of the source material. And it's so important to understand why it works, because that makes it more effective. It's not just breathing. It's a hardwired interaction between your brain, your heart, and your diaphragm.
Okay, so let's unpack the physics of breathing.
Yeah.
Because I think most of us just assume slow breathing equals calm. But it's more specific than that, right? The inhale versus the exhale.
It's incredibly specific. So think about your diaphragm. It's this big sheet of muscle under your lungs. When you inhale, your diaphragm moves down.
Okay, it flattens out.
It flattens out, which creates more space in your chest cavity. And because there's more space, your heart literally gets bigger. It expands.
So inhale, bigger chest, bigger heart. Got it.
Yep. And because the heart is bigger, the volume inside it increases. Now think about like fluid dynamics. If a river widens into a lake, the water slows down.
Right. The current slows.
Same thing happens with your blood. It moves more slowly through this larger heart. Now, you have this little group of neurons in your heart called the sinoatrial node. It's the pacemaker. It senses the slow blood flow and sends a signal to your brain saying, hey, flow is low up here.
And the brain responds.
The brain responds by sending a signal back to the heart saying, speed up.
Wait, hold on. So inhaling
Mm?
actually speeds up my heart.
Exactly. Inhaling is the gas pedal. This is why just taking a big, deep breath and holding it can actually make you feel more agitated.
That is just, it's completely counterintuitive. I always thought big breaths were calming. So if the inhale is the gas.
The exhale is the brake. Precisely. When you exhale, your diaphragm moves up. The space in your chest gets smaller. Your heart gets a little compressed.
That's like putting your thumb over a garden hose. The pressure increases.
Perfect analogy. The blood speeds up through that smaller space. The sinoatrial node detects this fast flow, tells the brain, whoa, we're going too fast. And the brain sends a signal down the vagus nerve to slow the heart down.
So long exhales are the secret. That's the brake pedal.
That's the biological brake pedal. Which brings us to the physiological sigh. It's a very specific pattern. A double inhale, followed by a long, extended exhale.
Okay, why the double inhale? If inhaling is the gas, why would we hit it twice?
Great question. This is to deal with what's happening in your lungs when you're stressed. Your lungs aren't just two big balloons. They're filled with millions of tiny little air sacs called alveoli.
Huberman says if you spread them out, it's the surface area of a tennis court.
Which is just a wild image, a tennis court inside your chest. But when we get stressed, or even just breathe shallowly, these little sacs collapse, they deflate.
And that's a problem.
That's a huge problem
Right.
because you can't get oxygen in efficiently, and more importantly, you can't get carbon dioxide out.
And CO2 buildup is what makes us feel that panicky, I need air feeling, right?
That's the air hunger alarm in the brain. So the first big inhale starts to fill the lungs. But it's the second, shorter inhale, that little sharp sip of air at the top, that pops those collapsed alveoli back open.
It's like reinflating them.
It is. You're popping them open. And once they're open, you do that long, extended exhale. And because all those sacs are now open, you can offload a massive amount of carbon dioxide. And because the exhale is long, you're hitting that brake pedal hard.
So it's inhale through the nose, pause, another little sharp inhale, and then a long, slow sigh out through the mouth.
That's the pattern. And it works so fast. Huberman says 1 to 3 of those cycles can bring your stress level right back down to baseline in like 20 or 30 seconds.
That's a biological kill switch. You could do it anywhere. In a meeting, in your car.
In real time. But the source material also gets into something else that just blew my mind. We all think stress is bad, period. But Huberman breaks it down into 3 time scales: short, medium, and long. And he says short-term stress is actually good for us.
Yeah, that's one I couldn't get my head around. I would have assumed the complete opposite. A stressful week almost always ends with me getting sick.
But does it happen during the stressful week or on the first day of your vacation?
Yeah, actually, the first day of vacation.
That's the letdown effect.
Yeah.
During the actual stress, your body is armor plating itself. The adrenaline that's released causes your spleen and other organs to just liberate these killer cells.
So the adrenaline is literally deploying the troops.
It's deploying the troops, white blood cells designed to hunt down and destroy bacteria and viruses. And there's this incredible study he cites that proves this.
This is the one where they injected people with bacteria, which just sounds horrible.
It does. They used an E. coli endotoxin, which mimics a severe infection. Normally gives you a fever, you get sick, you vomit. It's a huge inflammatory response.
Sounds miserable.
It is. But they had half the group do a specific breathing protocol beforehand. It's a kind of cyclic hyperventilation. Basically, they deliberately spiked their adrenaline before they got the injection.
So they stress their bodies out on purpose.
They manually mobilized their systems, and the result. The breathing group had essentially 0 symptoms. No fever, no vomiting. Their immune response was already so fired up from the adrenaline that it just neutralized the threat immediately.
They tricked their bodies into fighting a war before the enemy even arrived on the battlefield.
Oh,
That's
dude,
amazing.
It's a powerful demonstration. But we have to put a huge safety warning here. Huberman is very, very clear on this.
Right.
You can try this kind of breathing, but never, ever, ever do it near water. Not in a bath, not in a pool.
Because of shallow water blackout.
Oh, yeah.
You can pass out without warning.
Exactly. It's incredibly dangerous. So do it on a couch, do it in bed, safety first.
Okay, so short-term stress can be a superpower. But what about medium-term stress? The project that's due in 2 weeks, or studying for finals, the grind.
Right. This is where the goal shifts. It's about raising your stress threshold, increasing your capacity to handle that adrenaline hit without panicking.
So it's like weightlifting for your nerves.
That's a great way to think about it. The practice is to deliberately put yourself in a high activation state, sprinting, a cold shower, something intense, and then while your body is screaming, you practice calming your mind.
That sounds really hard.
It is. That's the training. You're learning to dissociate the physical feeling of high energy from the mental story of I'm in danger. And there's a visual tool he offers to help. It's called panoramic vision.
The eyes again. I was so surprised how much our eyes control our brain state.
They're literally part of the brain that's outside the skull. So when we're stressed, our pupils dilate and we get tunnel vision. We focus on the threat.
Oh yeah, I've felt that. The world just disappears, except for the one problem in front of me.
To counteract that, you can consciously dilate your gaze. You keep your head still, but you try to see the periphery, the ceiling, the floor, the walls, all at once. You soften your focus.
So I'm visually zooming out.
Literally. And this visual shift actually triggers a circuit in your brainstem that turns off the alertness mechanism. It signals safety. So if you practice this while your heart is pounding from a run, you're teaching your brain, I can be alert, but I am safe. I am calm.
That is such a cool hack. You can use your eyes to tell your brainstem to chill out.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered the short-term boost and the medium-term training. But then there's the villain of the story. Long-term chronic stress, months, years of it.
And this is the danger zone. Huberman is so clear. This is where the damage happens. It crashes your immune system, leads to heart disease, and it can actually wither the memory centers in your brain.
It physically damages your brain.
It can cause neurons to die off. This is the stuff we have to avoid.
Right. So what's the fix besides, just quitting your job and moving to an island?
The primary buffer, he says, is social connection, and he frames it through the lens of serotonin.
The feel-good chemical.
It's more the molecule of well-being and having enough. It protects the brain circuitry from that withering effect. But here's the key. His definition of connection is really broad. It does not have to be a deep talk with another person.
Really? Because sometimes people are the source of my stress.
Exactly. And you don't have to. He says connection can be with a pet. It can be with an object. It can be the feeling of delight looking at art. The key is the feeling of trust and shared experience. That's what releases the serotonin.
So playing with my dog isn't just me procrastinating, it's neuroprotection.
It is essential maintenance. But he does also talk about supplements with some big caveats.
Right, people are always looking for the pill.
He mentions ashwagandha, which can lower cortisol. But he says to only use it during stressful periods, not all year round, because you don't want to blunt your stress system completely.
We need some cortisol just to wake up in the morning.
We do. He also mentions L-theanine, which is a bit gentler and helps with sleep. And he actually advises caution with melatonin, saying most supplements are way overdosed. He really emphasizes that light exposure is the best way to regulate melatonin, not a pill.
A good reality check. The tools, breathing, vision, connection are more powerful.
Far more powerful.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this all up. We started by saying stress isn't an emotion, it's energy, it's mobilization.
That's the core. We have the system designed to move us, and now we have a brake pedal, the physiological sigh for the moment. We have a steering mechanism, panoramic vision, to raise our threshold. And we have a maintenance system for the long haul, which is social connection and serotonin.
Really flips the script from I'm a victim of my stress to I am the pilot, this machine.
That's it. We can't control what happens in the world. But we can learn to control our physiological response to it. The stress response is generic, it's just fuel. How we use that fuel is up to us.
I love that. Which I think leads us to a really interesting place to leave things. We normally think of stress as a drain. But if Huberman's right, and it's just this massive dump of energy and resources into our system,
then the real question becomes, if stress is just a mobilization of energy, what have you been avoiding in your life that you could actually use that energy to accomplish?
something to chew on the next time your heart starts racing. Thanks for diving in with us.
Take curious.
Keep leveling up your life.
And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss our next episode.